They said you were the best in the Parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast covering Star Wars TV shows on Disney+. Now we're covering Andor, Cassian Andor. My name is Bubba, and with me, as always, is someone who always loses when he plays Floor is Lava. It's Catfish.
Bubba. How the heck are you? It is a pleasure to be with someone who is always the one that we have to wait around to compile the things. The old man with the butterfingers.
Guys, we're going to be breaking down Season 1, Episode 8, entitled Narkina 5. And we're just cogs in the machine, making cogs for the machine, just like Andor himself. We're going to be talking your feedback, and we got great feedback this week. Our musical expert, Double M, is going to tackle the music of this week's episode. And also, we're going to have a unique Bounty Hunter Guild battle this week, where we're going to use our creative brain to figure out how will Season 1 of Andor end. There are only 4 more episodes left. We're 2/3 of the way through. And so we're going to have to figure out, how will this season end? Because this is a fascinating show. I want to call it Star Wars War and Peace, which isn't great, but this is a big story with a lot of moving pieces. Catfish, what is your rating for Episode 8?
Well, I was going to give this 8 out of 10, what I like to call quadruple S's.
Quadruple S's?
Yes, Syril's 6 suspicious searches. But then I realized it actually deserves 8 out of 10 quintuple N's.
Just for our listeners, I know, but how many is quintuple?
That is 5 N's, Bubba.
Oh my goodness. Okay, let's hear it.
Narkina's industrial penitentiary.
We'll talk to you next week on Parsec. Catfish,
Bubba,
that was so crazy. I forgot what you rated it. What was it out of 10?
That was 8 out of 10, Bubba.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed this episode. The pieces are moving around on the board. Our boy Syril is back to be double S. Spoiling Syril. He's going to ruin whatever plans are made. I love it. It doesn't matter how low on the totem pole Syril is. He's still got a snooty attitude. Cyril's snooty. Oh, my God. I know that this kind of felt in a lot of ways as a placeholder episode, but I still just enjoyed the world. I'm all in. What about you, Bubba?
Well, Catfish, how many tables were there in that workroom where Andor was a prisoner? How many stations were there?
There's 7 levels, 7 cells, 7 tables, 7 people per table, Bubba. That's a lot of 7.
Can you guess what I'm going to rate this episode?
9.
You got it. I'm rating it 9 triple T's out of 10.
Yeah, triple T's.
Triple T's is when you work there, you get tingly toasted toes. There's something about this show where if I'm in the worst mood, I love it even more. I always talk about how I watch it before I go into work and I'm tired and all these things. I got no sleep last night. I wake up at 7 in the morning. I'm just completely dead without any sleep. I say I wake up. I kind of was already awake. And I go out and I start Disney+. I normally like type on my laptop, but this time I'm like laying down. I'm so still so tired. And I'm sitting there typing. And real quickly, I'm like, oh, let me sit up a bit. Let me sit up a bit. Let me sit up a bit. I have all these weeks been rating this show on how it's presented to us as a weekly show. And I do admit that it's not the perfect weekly show, but I mentioned War and Peace. And with this episode going to so many planets, touching on so many characters, it's so interconnected. This is what I love about Tony Gilroy stories like Michael Clayton. This is what I love about this show. And I'm going to try to stop holding it against the content that it's released weekly. Because 9 out of 10, this is really friggin' good, man. This is just great. It really is.
Well, I'm glad you love it, Bubba. 9 out of 10. We always say we don't care what we say. Nobody cares what we think. We want you to tell us what you think about this episode. We're just here to provide some inspiration to your thoughts.
Heck yeah. Let's do some quick hits. We're going to break down this episode in detail, but let's do some quick hits just to get into it.
All right.
This episode, I'm watching it and I'm thinking, Princess Leia, you got off real easy. The Death Star prison you were held in, that's nothing.
Oh, so she got the princess accommodations.
Oh, that's a good point. Good point. So I started thinking about what is the best / worst fantasy prison to be stuck in. So we saw this place, Narkina 5, where you've got to tiptoe around or you're going to be in trouble with some fried feet. There is, of course, the Game of Thrones Sky Cell in the Eyrie, where Tyrion was held in season 1 of Game of Thrones, if you remember that, where it's just an open wall, and if you go anywhere there, you're going to fall to your imminent death. You have in the Wizarding World, Azkaban, where you're trapped on an island in the middle of the North Sea, surrounded by Dementors. So, Catfish, do you have a favorite fantasy prison or a place you're like, I would not want to be trapped there? That sounds terrible.
All right, I'm going to take your 3, Bubba, and I'm going to rate them in ascending order from least worst to worst. All right. I think this is the least worst. At least it's clean. Mm-hmm. You got food. Everything is nice. You get those nice white clothes. And hey, you actually get to taste your food if you do your job well.
Okay. Next,
I'm going to go with the Game of Thrones Sky Cells. Now, normally this would be first. I don't have a fear of heights, but I always, when I dream, Bubba, I'm always falling in dreams.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
So, loyal listeners will know that I do have about 95 solo jumps out of a plane. So I'm not scared of heights, but it seems like that's the way I'm going to go.
All right.
That would be horrible if it weren't for being in a place where insane people are screaming all the time at you. So I'm going to go Azkaban worst. What about you, Bubba?
Well, I do have to say, we didn't hear about the food at Azkaban. They could have had a great menu.
That is true.
A wonderful buffet. You're like, oh, this place, I'm with you. I think the Dementors would be the worst. That said, in the Eyrie, when you're out there in the elements and imagine it's winter and the wind is coming, that would also be pretty terrible. But this is some good psychological torture. I got to give it to Narkina 5. It may not be the best of these fantasy prisons I threw out, but I'm like, this is a pretty good mind game where you're really battling the other prisoners. They're setting prisoners against themselves. I think they're all wonderful / terrible prisons. Okay, let's go to somebody who was kind of in their own prison, a bizarre prison this week, and that's Syril, where he's confined to this one place at the ISB. He's not really a prisoner, but he is kind of a prisoner. He's trapped in the cubicle world, and he can't seemingly get out of it. So which Imperial are you on the team of? Are you team Dedra, or are you team Syril Karn? Let's hear it.
All right, Bub, you need to follow my logic here. Since I'm anti-Imperial, I'm team Syril all the way. Because Dedra is too efficient and good at her job, and Syril is just he's going to be screw-up Syril, no matter what he does. I don't often believe in fate, but in this show, I believe in Cyril's fate. His fate is to destroy whatever job he tries to attain.
I've talked about how in those first 3 episodes, I'm like, I love Syril. His patheticness, I loved everything about him. This episode, my love grew even stronger. What gumption to stand there. And you are a bit in a prison. They're two-way mirrors, right? It feels like we're people watching him, and he says, this report you handed me, this is terrible. You guys don't know what you're doing. Damn, yeah, Syril. I was like, hell to the yeah, I'm getting on your team. Now, it's almost nothing against Dedra, because you are right. She is very competent.
Oh, yeah.
Of the two, she's competent. And so if I was actually working on that team, I'd be like, yeah, let me be on the competent team as opposed to the off-the-hook team. But watching Syril in almost everything except eating cereal and getting slapped by his mother, I love it. I'm on team Syril. That's what I'm on.
I love it, Bubba. All right, I got a couple for you, Bubba.
Oh,
here's
great.
A couple quick hits. So we know that Mon Mothma, we found out, and Perrin married as teens at 15 years old. And they imply that it was some way an arranged marriage, or at the very least the tradition of where they grew up to marry that early. So my quick question to you, Bubba, is who should they marry Leida off to?
Well,
just to get her out of the house, get that troublemaker out of the house.
I snuck a peek at the document and I saw your answer and I thought, no, that's too good a match. I'm going with Jabba. Even though I think Dedra's great at what she does, and I think Syril's fascinating to watch, Leida, she was barely in this episode, but seeing her and kind of seeing what she's doing, I thought I might like Perrin better. That's how negative I was towards Leida. So I'm trying to think the worst person to marry her off to, Jabba. That's my call.
I think that is a great answer, Bubba. But I know you're jealous of my answer because this keeps her in the political realm, but saddles her with an idiot. She should be engaged to Jar Jar Binks. Misa thinks she would hate that, and Misa loves what she hates.
Bomb bad groom for Leida. But once again, there's something about Leida where literally I saw your note of marrying her off to Jar Jar, and I thought, Jar Jar doesn't deserve that. Jar Jar screwed up a lot of things. Like he gave Chancellor Palpatine emergency powers, remember, which kind of led to the Emperor. But Leida, there's something going on there. I was like,
Damn.
Okay, you got another one for me.
I do, Bubba. All right. So Luthen's Imperial nickname given to him by Dedra is Axis.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's the central figure of the organized rebel effort. So, Bubba, this made me think, what would your Imperial nickname be?
This was easy. Unsignificant. Not insignificant, unsignificant.
I like that. Bubba. My answer is side piece.
Oh, man.
Side piece. Off to the side. Right. Not important. All right, Bubba. We always have
you're on the plate, though. You make the plate.
I might be under the soup spoon.
No. Listeners, each week we've been asking who is Cassian's sister of the week. She seems so important in those first 3 episodes where we're flashing back to Kenari and their childhood. We've gotten away from that. I think if this season has a structure, and let's be honest, it feels like it has a structure. She's in this season. Was she in this episode 8? I got to be honest. If she was in this episode, she would have been in Mon Mothma's party. So I don't know which woman she is in the episode, but she's going to be living the high life while Cassian is down in a prison. That's my guess. Do you have a pick for Cassian's sister of the week?
But see, this is what you're constrained by your mind, which has corners to it, whereas mine just keeps going around and around in circles. What you don't realize, and why this person was played by a very well-known actor, is that Cassian's sister this week was the character played by Andy Serkis.
Well, hey, Cassian was so worried about his sister. Look, she's like a middle manager. She's doing great.
She's doing great. Listen, she's in charge.
She's going to be motion captured by Andy Serkis as he's like, rah, rah, rah. Hey, listeners, those are our quick hits. We often ask for your feedback, what you thought about the episode, but these quick hits were actually great, silly questions. So we want to know, who should Leida be married off to? I think that's a great one. What are you on Team Dedra? Are you on Team Syril? Once again, write to us at double PHQ. That's the word double, single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at double PHQ on Twitter and Instagram, facebook.com/double PHQ. If you're on YouTube, go down in the comments and tell us which team is the best. Should we marry Leida to Syril? Talk about devil spawn. Ooh,
oh my tough. God, that would be awesome. That'd be so good. Bubba.
Yeah.
There's Andor news out in the world.
Right. Well, we are talking about a galaxy far, far away. We've dedicated this podcast to Star Wars television shows on Disney Plus, not really realizing that there'd be a bit of break from Star Wars movies, but there have been for a while. They've tried a couple of projects and they don't seem to get off the ground as cleanly as you would like. And so just 2 days ago, news broke that there's a secret Star Wars movie project in the work that's being led by Damon Lindelof, famous for working on Lost, that great TV show, Watchmen, the HBO show that a lot of people loved, and The Leftovers, another HBO show that people loved. He's collaborating with a young writer named Justin Britt Gibson, who worked as the executive story editor on, get ready for it, Guillermo del Toro's vampire drama, The Strain. Starboy!
Featuring Nora's mom's daughter, Nora.
You remember, Catfish. You may be the only one who remembers The Strain, but listeners, we actually podcasted all 4 seasons of the Strain, and it only felt like 8 seasons. And so the fact that a writer from the Strain is going to be tied into Star Wars, I really think I might have to go lie down for a bit. It depresses me so much. Catfish, do you have any feelings about Damon Lindelof being kind of the leader of this secret Star Wars movie?
I know there's a lot of people who are very anti-Damon Lindelof. I think whenever he puts something together, it has great production values. I did love The Watchmen. I don't know how involved he was in that, but sometimes I feel like they're very beautiful and well put together, but not a lot of emotion, which is not the way I felt about The Watchmen. I really was tied into that series, but we'll see.
We will see. Like a lot of things, this would not be something we'd be seeing a year or 2 years from now in a theater. This would, at the minimum, is 3 years away. But fascinating to know that we're getting seemingly Star Wars Disney Plus shows, 3 a year at this rate. Will we see a Star Wars movie in 3 years? And will it be created by somebody who was the executive story editor on The Strain? Could Zach 2.0, Nora's mother's daughter, Nora, I mean, all the classics, Sturgoy, Satrakian. Oh my, okay. For the very few people who listen to the Strain podcast, I won't do all the characters about that. If you do like listening to our podcast, we just finished up season 1 of The House of the Dragon on HBO.
Oh, yeah.
This final episode had quite a bite, and it just was really fun. We do talk about Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon on our The Joffrey podcast feeds. Search The Joffrey podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we've been talking about now for, feels like 3 weeks, we've been covering a murder mystery where Detective Catfish solves the crimes. I made this joke the other day, but it was funny because it was true. Catfish, as the detective, watches these episodes and he, gives his thoughts at the end. And like a couple of them, I'm like, boy, that is a really smart thought. If you just follow that thought to the next step, and then he's like, no, there's this other step I want to take that's not in this building. And so it's fun to watch and see if you can solve it and follow along with Detective Catfish.
I told you, Bubba, there's no corners in my mind.
No, it's called Let's Solve Magpie Murders. Yeah, Catfish, I'm already ready for the last episode of that podcast where I can say, remember when you said this? And how
I can't wait for that. That's going to be the best segment.
Okay, well, Catfish, I called this War and Peace not because it's really like War and Peace so much, except that this scope of this story is just, I think, incredible. And we visited several systems this week. We started a bit on Neamos, I believe the what I call the Florida Panhandle planet was. We go to the prison planet. We're on Coruscant with all the Imperials and Mon Mothma. And Luthen takes us to a new planet, Segra Milo. We go back to Ferrix, Cassian's planet where Marva, his adoptive mother, is. Which of these planets do you want to visit first, Catfish?
Well, I'm one of first in, first out, Bubba. Let's get on and off Ferrix as soon as we can.
Back on Ferrix, we know the Imperials took it over from the Corpos, and it's really miserable, but Cassian's adoptive mother, Marva, she last week, remember, her spark to be a rebel, to fight, got re-engaged. But sadly, some of the work she's been doing, it's gotten her into trouble, and she's fallen, she's cold. Cassian's former girlfriend, Bix, and the droid B2 are trying to help Marva, but she's not doing well. His buddy Brasso comes over, but Marva is trying to find a way to fight the Empire. She's hearing their tunnels underneath the hotel, which the Empire took over and is their base. Do you have any thoughts? Last week it was very inspiring to hear Marva say, you know what? I couldn't walk down this area because the Imperials killed my husband in that area. Now she's not only walking down that area, she's trying to find a tunnel underneath their base, probably to blow them up, don't you think? But it's also kind of killing her because she's out in the cold and she's not doing too well. Any thoughts about Marva, the adoptive
So essentially
mother?
saying she's so inspired that she's now walking where she wasn't before, but also she's just falling. She's walking and then just falling. Yeah. Well, Bubba, I would say she's like someone who got healed by a faith healer. I can walk. Maybe no, I can't. Bubba, this just goes to show you two things. One, that you should not be inspired by a bunch of rebels going around. And two, that Luthen is right. People need to be really squished before they fight back.
Oh man, that's completely true. But look who else shows up on Ferrex.
Who
It's
dat?
It's Vel and Cinta, who are obviously been sent there to take care of Cassian, who knows about Luthen.
Now,
And
Bubba,
so
you may yell at me.
no.
Who was the one left behind?
You mean in the Aldhani heist,
Yeah.
Cinta was left behind as everybody else flew away. And we
To
thought
do another job.
Yeah, that's what
and
we thought.
then she was stuck on a planet where apparently everyone is being captured, and I assume they're not letting anyone go off planet, but all of a sudden she's just back. Okay.
I wonder if that'll come back too, Catfish. I really do. There's this weird push and pull. We know that Vel and Cinta are an item, but even they're struggling as they struggle against the Empire. Cinta even has a kind of dig at Vel, saying, "Ooh, maybe I'm a little girl who misses my rich family and needs to get back." Because Vel's like, "Why are we still doing this?" Cinta has a couple lines I pulled out here. She says, "Struggle will always come first. We take what's left." And then once again, as there's this push and pull between these two people in a relationship, Cinta says, "I'm a mirror, Vel. You love me because I show you what you need to see." Ouch. But at the end of the episode, it seems those two split up. It seems like Vel is hopping on a transport, going back to the space station so she can fly off planet, and Cinta's going to stay there and try to kill Cassian. It feels like that's what it was. Any thoughts on those two, Catfish? These member of the Aldhani 7, besides Cassian, that survived.
I mean, it kind of reminds me of this Groucho Marx song that I heard a long time ago, where essentially the lyrics are, "How can I miss you if you don't ever leave?" So they're trying to reignite the flame by separating once again.
Oh, man. Now, I keep mentioning Bix, Cassian's ex. She wants to reach out to Cassian and tell him, "Hey, Marva, who you obviously have deep feelings for, she's not doing well. You need to get here." The only way she can find Cassian is to turn on the old radio tower that they had used before to reach Luthen. Earlier in the episode, we had heard that Dedra was going to start doing radio signal tracking and stuff on Ferrex. And so you're like, oh no. Bix went to turn that radio on, and I was like, this is not good. And pretty much when we come back to Ferrex after jumping around a bit, the pipes are banging all over town. You know what that means? Trouble in Ferrex City. I mean, we've got big trouble. And this is one of these things. Remember last week, it was everybody on Ferrex blames you, Cassian, for the trouble you've caused. Now, admittedly, they should blame the Empire because they're the ones coming in and making everybody's life miserable. But again, Cassian is really tied to this. An attempt to find and reach Cassian has now got the guy who was running who had his name's Pac. He had the radio in his business. He's getting tortured. And now Bix gets caught. And oh man, not good.
Now that is what she gets for Triple T.
Triple T?
Yeah. Trusting Tim with 2 M's.
R.I.P. Tim. We hardly knew ye. Yeah, no, Tim, that's a good point. You could blame the Empire or Tim. I accept either of those as things.
But now we have to blame Bix. But Double B, blame Bix.
Why? Because she went to the tower and she shouldn't have. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Once again, you should really blame the Empire. What we keep seeing is the Empire is turning people against each other so they don't fight them, right? Like, hey.
No one is forcing people to go against each other. The Empire is just exposing the personalities they had already.
Can I tell you that even though I'm on Team Syril, Dedra is too good at her job. They've caught Bix. Dedra is there in the hotel. Pac, this guy, he's been tortured. He's been beaten. Underling comes up to Dedra. "You want me to get him out of here?" She's like, no. But then as soon as Bix comes in, she's like, "What are you doing? Get this man out of here. This is ridiculous." I love Dedra's intelligence. She is she's a good foe. You always want your heroes to battle, difficult foes, smart foes. I think Dedra's great, and I love that move where it felt to me like she was trying to look like the good cop to Bix in an attempt to get some information. She will not stay good cop long, but I love that move. Any thoughts on that, Catfish?
No, it is good. I mean, we're going to talk more about Dedra later, but you are right. She is the sharpest lightsaber in the Empire's toolbox in this story.
Love it. Let's go real quickly. We didn't spend much time here, but we did get to see a very familiar character.
Mhm.
Let's go to Segra Milo, where Luthen goes to meet up with Saw Gerrera. And Saw Gerrera, as we all know, played by Forrest Whitaker, had a very memorable role in Rogue One. It's just fun. Any thoughts on Forrest Whitaker at all, Catfish, or his take on this? Do you want to call him a Colonel Kurtz type character? What do you think of Saw Gerrera?
It's funny because I rewatched Rogue One after we started this show, and he's actually doing the voice even more foggy. I'm not even going to try because it'll hurt my voice. He's even doing it more foggy in the movie than in the show, like almost like he said, you know what, this hurt my voice last time. I can't do the whole thing. However, what I like about this is they're like frenemies.
Oh, yeah.
They both accuse the other of being behind the Aldhani heist, but we know that we've got Double L, lying Luthen, and Double S, but not Double S.
Oh, huh?
Yes, subterfuging Saw. Saw is kind of being open with him. Well, Luthen is said he's going to give him. He's like, oh, I got all this stuff. First, he lays it out. I got all this stuff. And Saw's like, how much is that going to cost me? And Luthen's like,
that's pretty good. You said it hurt your throat. That's pretty good.
It's good. He said, no, it's all free. You just got to meet with Anto Krieger and provide air support. Saw is like, I'm not going to get involved with you. Luthen says oppression breeds rebellion. Here it again, Luthen saying, Luthen's like, I'd like to order up some more suffering, please. More and more suffering.
Right. The more they suffer, they'll finally join my cause if they suffer enough. It reminds me of Dr. Oz's debate pod. And so, yeah, and Saw, who was almost so over the top in Rogue One that it almost took away from who he was supposed to be. But
huh?
Right, yeah, almost. Actually, probably it did take away. But the lines they give Saw, where Saw's like, I won't support him. He's a separatist. And you have to remember back to the Clone Wars. Those were the two sides. He's like still fighting the Clone Wars. That war ended a while ago. And he's mentioning all the rebel groups, the Separatists, the Neo-Republicans, the Gorman Front, the Partisan Alliance, the Sectorists, the Human Cultists, the Galaxy Partitionists.
The Judean People's Front, the People's Front of Judea, the Judeans Popular People Front.
No.
The Popular People. I'm sorry, I got carried away.
Saw, he's like, yeah, all those other rebels, they're morons. My rebels, I'm the one with a clarity sense of purpose.
Splitters!
Catfish.
Sorry.
I think it's good to see. I don't know. This was shot during kind of the height of COVID, so I don't know how much Forrest Whitaker can participate in this show. The scene we saw today is pretty much all we saw of him in the trailer, but I kind of want him to stick around. I kind of want him maybe to even see how he got those terrible injuries, because it didn't look like he was quite as injured in this show as he was in Rogue One. And so
great. You want to see? Yeah, it's all you want from the next episode is Double S.
Double S.
Yes. Saw suffering.
Well, wait a minute. Isn't that what Luthen wants? He's like, I know how to get Saw to join my rebellion. Make him suffer.
Yeah, maybe Luthen does it.
Hey, what did you guys think? Were you excited about seeing a Rogue One character here in the show? Well, we're going to talk about another Rogue One character in a bit, but Catfish, forget these far-flung planets. Let's go to the center of the galaxy. Let's go to Coruscant and my boy Syril.
Yeah, your boy Syril. How's he doing?
Well, he's still got his job. You know, forget if he likes it. Forget if they like him as an employee. He still has the job. And guess what? We see Imperials marching up to his cube and getting him away from work. Time off from work. This is Syril's best day ever. He gets some time off from making sure fuel purity is good. And then we see him see Dedra. And for the longest time, I thought, well, obviously these two characters need to get together. But this get together didn't go at all like I thought it would, because they are butting heads. And in Dedra, once again, I'm not quite on her team, but she's just great. She says, she's Dedra. She says, I'm from the ISB. I'm the supervisor for the Morlana system. Syril, what happened to Lieutenant Blevin? Dedra shuts that down. I'll ask the questions. Snap hell to the yield.
Oh man, and she lists out all these things. I mean, you have to give it to him. At least Syril is trying to accuse Cassian of crimes that relate to the sectors he's communicating with.
Right.
Oh, Andor, he's messing with the fuel purity.
Throw him away. Another great moment is Dedra's like, you would think one would want to quit bringing up the thing that got you into such trouble. Syril, one would be wrong. Oh, snap.
Ooh.
He's once again, he's not in a prison, but he's sitting in a chair surrounded by glass walls.
He's as low as he could go without assembling some sort of mysterious object in a prison where he doesn't wear shoes. I mean, he never loses his thing. And the other thing he doesn't lose, Bubba, is his high collar. He's got another one in this episode. Bubba, I'm starting to think it's not style. I'm starting to think he might have some sort of strange rash that he's hiding around his lower neck.
I'm just thinking of all the tailors who are staying in business despite these terrorist attacks in Altani. They're like, maybe people won't want to come get alterations done. Cyril's here with another 8 outfits. All right, let's go. So
that is so good. Yeah, and then we see Dedra giving a report to the higher ups, and this is great about her. Yeah. Right? The head honcho is like, I'm listening, but she is kind of pushing back. It's funny, she pushes, and then she's like, you see a little bit of like, oh, did I push too far? But even this is when she says she's called Luthen Axis. She's got all the receipts, Bubba. Blevin got none of the receipts. She's got all the receipts. She's identified that there is this character that is obviously Luthen.
Yep.
She calls him the Axis. And then not only, Bubba, has she superseded Blevin, but she has got Partagaz on her side. She makes her pitch. I know. Partagaz turns to the big boss and says, I completely believe this. Now, Bubba, what did you think at this point?
She is too competent. We are watching a show where you think the heroes have to win. Cassian is not smarter than Dedra. I'm not sure Luthen is smarter than Dedra. I mean, I thought she was brilliant.
I mean, and what did you think that had to do? What characters did you think would be in trouble here?
I thought, Bix, you're gone.
She gone. I love it. The only thing I thought, though, Bubba, is that Dedra is going to be doomed if she gets what I like to call double S. Okay,
double S.
Yeah, saddled with Syril. Unless they bring back to the team Triple L.
Oh, I can't remember, but who is it?
Lucky Lickspittle Linus. Let's get the whole team back. That will, at least one thing, brother, will improve morale. Everyone will feel better about themselves if they get Linus back. Excellent point, ma'am. I would love it if you just sat behind her during this speech. It's like, excellently said.
Hell, if we do that, give me Chief Hind back. Let's say we succeeded and just go to lunch. Now, Syril, once again, why am I on his team? The guy has no quit. He can't read a room. He is literally ripping these reports to Dedra's face. Now, admittedly, that's a Blevin report he's ripping, but he's just like, this is just ridiculous. And he, for somebody who's in big trouble, he is ripping the Imperials left and right. I love it.
Oh, except for Bubba, there's one funny moment in here where she tries to get a description of Luthen from him, and he's like, gray cloak, gray boots, and they go to outside the interrogation room, and two of her lackeys look at each other like, oh boy, he's gonna have to do better than that.
That's what's so funny. And maybe we could talk about this. Is Dedra is just sick of him, and she is like, and he keeps snapping back. He's like, I was a good deputy inspector. Can one ever be too aggressive in preserving order? And Dedra, oh no, you didn't. Raise the alarm one more time, and it won't be me you're speaking with. Forget this happened. But there was a part of me that wondered if, this. I keep mentioning how they're making the Empire is making like the common man fight against another common man rather than against them. There was a part of me that also thought Dedra kind of rose up the ranks by fighting against her own people, fighting against Blevin, fighting against this. And if she sees in Syril, like, no, you don't. You don't get to get any credit. You don't get to whip people up around and talk about order. I'm the order. Get out of here, boy. And so did you feel any of that? I felt there was a little bit of me that thought Dedra doesn't want anybody to take any credit. She wants his information, but once she's done with him, get lost. No credit for Syril.
Well, here's the question I see, Bubba. This only goes one of two ways. Obviously, all this time we followed Syril into his dead-end job. We found out backstory about Syril. Cyril's going to continue. So my only question to you is this. Is he continue on his own, or is she going to allow him to participate even if it's kind of under the table? In other words,
okay.
Kind of have him getting information for her, tracking something down for her. Because if she does, that will be the worst decision she's ever made.
That is completely true. But you sparked my interest so much when you said, is Syril just going to go completely rogue on his own? And I actually think that makes the most sense, is him going rogue, because he is obsessed with Cassian. Let's not jump past that point. He is obsessed with Cassian. He could go off on his own. And I wouldn't be surprised if somehow he catches wind of something, and that's how he gets back in the game. Maybe he's like, Uncle Harlow, you got me this great job. Well, guess what I got for you? And so that's the way he's gonna almost get back in the story. I wonder.
Here's the other thing. He was so upset by the report. Maybe he thought, all right, I got screwed all the way from the top.
Oh, yeah.
But when he found out he got screwed from the middle and not the top, right? Maybe he thinks there's still a way for him to prove himself to the top. Because if he got screwed from the top, all the way from the top, there's nothing he can do. Right. Now he knows or thinks there's some way that he can get back in people's good graces. Syril.
Catfish, these are great ideas. Listeners, where do you see Syril going? Number one, we know he's going to be screwing up wherever he goes in some ways, but yeah, he's an intriguing character. I'm down. Get him away from his mom. I don't need the morning, tongue lashing from his mother anymore.
Oh, man. Speaking of his mothers, we got a party at Mon Mothma's house, and it is so amazing. They're putting the tequila with the worm. Mon Mothma doesn't like hers with the worm anymore, so Perrin says, give me your worm. Bubba, she's like, what are we toasting to? She says, a quick night. And Bubba, I thought Mon Mothma is your soulmate, because if anybody can give a lady a quick night, it is you. But then I found out that Perrin also hates people who are early. He gives Take Home a hard time for being prompt. So, Bubba, I thought Perrin is also your soulmate, because you don't like it when people are on time either.
Listeners, you may be wondering why there was this big edit in the podcast. It was just because we had a technical problem, not because of anything else. So I've already told you my feelings about Leida. I'll have another little part for her in a bit. But Perrin, who in a lot of previous episodes is so repulsive, for me, he's turned the corner. A bit like Syril. He's turned the corner from being repulsive to being, all right, Perrin, go crazy. Let's just hear it. And so I wrote down all three of these lines from Perrin. He's like, yes, my wife, saving the Empire from the Emperor. Oh, snap. The rebels might have thought that over before blowing up Aldhani. So, he's like, oh, geez. And then he tells his wife, and Tay, he's like, good luck feeding the galaxy. I'm off to feed myself. What a self-centered, just terrible prick. More screen time. I'm ready. Let's go.
I love it because Mon Mothma sort of makes definitely a backhanded compliment.
Oh yeah.
Perrin used to be a firebrand at 15, not a total leech like he is now. Then Leida.
Oh yeah.
So Tay comes in. They're talking. And Leida says, we keep seeing you more and more often. And she is giving it a lot of attitude to Tay.
And I just saw this and I went, uh-oh. Perrin, I kept thinking, well, is Perrin going to turn his wife in because he's so sick of her? But Perrin is also, he just doesn't seem like the brightest bulb. Leida, I saw that interaction. It was so brief and she's barely in the episode, but the fact she's noticing that, I'm like, oh, she's the one who could figure things out. Could Leida turn her mother over to the Empire?
Oh,
That's
Bubba,
what I thought. And I thought, ooh.
If she does that, she's going to leap little Leia as far as how irritating that she is. But I love now Mon used to try to talk to her, but now she knows how to get rid of her. Your dad's looking for you. Boom. It's how to get rid of her. Go to your dad. He's the one who always says yes. Just get out of my business.
Mom, I think I broke my arm. Your dad wants to talk to you. Okay. And then once again, these parties, Mon Mothma's house, cocktail party every night of the week. But it's so hilarious. So this is some real politics right here. Palpatine's frustrating. Yes, we agree. Too easily provoked? Yes. Overactive? Yes. But says what he means. Like, is that brilliant? Is that brilliant? You're like, everything this guy does is terrible, but he does, unlike a lot of politicians, he says what he means.
Yeah, yeah. He tells you he's going to do it, and he follows through. What more can you ask for somebody?
Okay. And then, we like having fun. We like having fun with this show. You would think this is the way people take over, right? This is the way you can easily slip from a republic into an empire. Like, I assume this is a bit like Rome, right? Julius Caesar was a soldier. And so somebody there at the party says the emperor's primary charge is to protect us, is it not? And so you protect and protect and protect, and pretty soon he's lording over you. Ooh.
Well, I would watch it, because if Mon goes down, Perrin better have pretty good connections. Otherwise, it's going down too. And those two people who are lusting over their view are going to get to see it every night.
Right. It's actually they get turned in as rebel spies as part of a real estate deal gone bad. Boy, I'd really love that place.
Exactly.
There's no way it could get open.
That's why the Empire took over Ferrix. Look, we're going to turn this condo into a...
Right, look at this hotel. Right, we can flip this. House hunters. The final thing there is that Lutha and Clea, we saw them in the shop quickly. And Clea, even though she's obviously the younger of the two, she kind of has to keep Luthen in line. She's like, dude, we can't have these radio signals coming to us. We're going to get caught. Shut that down. And Luthen, I said it on a podcast a couple of episodes ago. He really, at times, acts like he wants to get caught. Like, he's like, because remember how with Saw Gerrera, he said, I'm a coward. And there's something about him that I think maybe he's just personally itching for a fight, maybe. And that's why he does things like literally needs to be talked down from what I would consider the ledge of, hey, you're turning this radio on. If they find this, they will track it to you, dude.
Well, I mean, I think we can see that I think he's just at the point now where he's reckless. Things I don't think have worked up to this point. I mean, you don't get a guy you don't know involved in this plot to steal a gold unless you are reckless. You don't even plan it with the 6 people that you have.
Right.
Unless you're being reckless, you're just trying to strike out. So, and it does seem, and he even shows it there where he's been composed, except for the times that he is either fake laughing or real laughing, which are truly terrifying. Is that this is the first time he kind of breaks down a little bit. He's like, all right, no, I got control of it. And it's like, whoa.
We know you don't like the Empire, but would you be willing to go ahead and let them catch and kill Luthen just so you don't have to see that creepy smile one more time?
Oh no, I love Luthen so much. Okay. Luthen. Do you think Luthen's gonna make it out of season 1? I have a bad feeling about Luthen.
That is a great question. Obviously, this is a great actor in high demand. He's always working, so it's not like he's gonna be in trouble. Well, let's save that for the Bounty Hunter Guild battle.
All right, let's do it.
I think that's a good question. All right. And so that means, guys, we got to finally go to prison.
I love it. Let's do this.
Let's do it. There is a brief shot on the what I keep calling the Panama City Beach planet where they're just divided up willy-nilly. Okay, you're from where? Okay, you go to this place, you go to that place. And they're put on these things. Keith Gergo keeps saying, I'm only a tourist. Got to take off your shoes. You're cuffed to the seats of this prison bus. Not good.
Bub, I was hoping for a moment that they would go gravity free, and as they were flying, their shoes would just keep hitting them in the face. That's the kind of comedy that I'm talking about that arises naturally from the environment. People getting slapped with their own shoes.
Oh, and a different type of torture. What's that terrible smell? Well, my foot odor from my shoe keeps hitting me in the face. So he's taken to this new planet that we've never seen before, Narkina 5, rocky planet, large bodies of water where there's these prison facilities. It's called an Imperial factoral facility. It seems to be in an ocean with large drains bringing the water down. And once again, the prisoners are barefoot. And I, of course, had to think of House of the Dragon and think our boy Lara Strong would love to be arrested in this place.
Oh, my God. He's like, palace intrigue? Forget that. I want to be prison guard.
Everywhere I look, bare feet. Heck yeah. Come on, Rex Ryan. Let's go. Quentin Tarantino, let's do it. The guards wear special boots. What did you think of those boots, Catfish?
Bubba, when I looked at them, I don't know if anybody remembers this. There were these stupid sneakers in the 80s or 90s. I can't even remember. That right on the tongue, they'd have a button that you would, and supposedly it would like puff up air into the shoes. And that's what these reminded me of. I assume they're highly insulated against shock.
Do you remember how lame those shoes were? What were they? They were just absolutely terrible. And it was like, it was like, ooh, walk on air. But instead it's like, you cut off blood circulation to your foot as you pump up this damn shoe.
Exactly.
So we talked about it. It's certainly not as bad as Azkaban or maybe the Sky Cells. But any thoughts on this prison as a whole and about what the Empire's doing? I saw it and I thought to myself, they are, as I wrote in the notes, said they are cogs in the machine, becoming cogs in the machine. And it's being described perfectly. Whoever works in PR who describes this Imperial factory facility as calm sanitary conditions and our minimally invasive enforcement techniques.
Bubba, as soon as I heard that, it was chilling to me. And then, of course, quickly we find out what those are. They get shocked, and it is like an instant dance party. And, Bubba, that is what I like to call triple S.
Triple S.
Yeah, a short, sharp shock. Now, Bubba, can you name the famous musical that phrase comes from?
No idea.
Most of our listeners will identify it from Us and Them on Pink Floyd, but the original, turns out, comes from Gilbert and Sullivan's opera The Mikado. But there you go.
Whoa.
So for those of you who are thinking, obviously, Pink Floyd, sort of right.
It's trivia night here on Parsec Passion Podcast. Catfish, that is great. That is great trivia. Cassian, he's given the old white suit jumper, which is a bit like the prisoners had to wear in George Lucas's first feature film, THX.
1138.
Exactly right. And so he's getting the lay of the land. And all right, admittedly, only YouTube audience will get this. You ready, Catfish?
Yeah.
On program. Yeah. You got to stand still, hands behind the head. Off program. Relax. Okay, we're good.
Holy cow, that is good. Bubba, and they keep telling Cassian eyes forward, but he's got his eyes all over the place. He's trying to figure out where the weak spots in this prison are. Bubba, I don't even know why they're being extremely careful as they bring him down. Don't they just have the finger on the button, and not the button to pump up their shoes, but the button to just shock the crap out of people? I don't know why they're being so safe.
Well, we talked about it. You got a 12-hour shift. Oh, boy, it's like my work schedule. And you're at 7 tables. And, once again, I always refer to Gary Glenn Ross. Hey, for table that does the best, you get flavor in your food. Second place, a set of steak knives. Third place, you're gonna lose any toe prints that you have.
You're going to get shocked. And like I said, Bubba, 7 levels, 7 rooms per level, 7 tables per room, 7 men per table. Bubba, this means Cassian is in another group of double S's.
Oh, no, double S's.
7 saps.
Hey, they're back together.
The 7 saps are back together. Bubba?
Yeah.
I feel like the number 7 is going to help me solve the murders on this show, Bubba.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Is this Magpie
different
Murders?
podcast.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm sorry. There's so many. I get confused. So,
Hey,
but 7 still is going to help me solve it somehow.
all right. We meet a prisoner who has been promoted from, assistant to the manager. Prisoner who's the supervisor. He's Kino, who's going to lead his team to victory and his room to victory. And he's played by Andy Serkis, who was the motion capture performer of a million things like Gollum. But in the Star Wars world, he was the motion capture performer and the voice of Supreme Leader Snoke in the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
He was the lead for the lead ape in the reboot of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
He's done everything, but considering he wants Cassian to learn quick, I feel like he should shorten his motivational speech a little bit. And you know what it is? The speech was also missing, Bubba. What was any idea of what he was supposed to do? He's just like, all right, get in there and be fast if you don't want to get shocked.
You'll pick it up quick.
Yeah. So Cassian, it does stand around to look. Actually, no one wants him to do anything, which I guess makes sense. And he looks at them and he watches the other people.
And one of those other people. So we're talking about the 7 Saps Catfish.
Yep, they're 7
We
Saps.
were always saying how many people were going to survive of the original Aldani 7. We got a new crew of 7 at the table here. How many of these suckers will survive the series?
Well, Bob, I was going to say 0, but then I looked in your document. Well, except for Cassian Andor.
Right.
Turns out we've got another. We've got 2 people this week who actually end up appearing in Rogue One.
And like Cassian and like Saw Gerrera, we have a character, Melshi, who also, spoiler alert, dies in Rogue One. So Melshi, this is absolutely crazy. He's not in Rogue One very much at all. But at the beginning of the movie, you may remember Jyn Erso is in prison, and the droid K2SO and a human break her out of prison. And so that person breaking her out of prison is Melshi, who himself, we find out, had been in a prison. And then later, when they decide, okay, to hell with it, let's attack the base, let's get these Death Star plans, Melshi comes along and he's not part of the main Rogue One crew, but he's kind of their one of the support players when they attack at the end of the movie. And R.I.P. Melshi, he doesn't survive that one either. They say his name a lot at the end of Rogue One. And so I heard Melshi, I went Melshi, and I went, where have I heard that? Oh my God, it's Melshi from Rogue One, whoever you are. So we know Saw Gerrera can't die in this series. We know that Cassian Andor can't. And now we have a guy named Melshi who was going to survive the series for sure. And I think this also, you have to just do the math and assume he's going to get out of this prison somehow. Hell yeah, Melshi. Good on good.
I love it. Now, yeah, we do find out part of our boy's motivational speech is the phrase, get busy or get fried. That's once again, thank you. I understand. I know where I am. Little advice on how to do this.
You ready?
Yeah.
Get busy or get busy frying. Now, this is Star Wars. We got droids everywhere, but the Empire couldn't have droids do this. I mean, it'd probably be done quicker too to make these cogs. Or is it just, we got to have it done. We got these prisoners. Let's torture these prisoners a bit. What do you think's going on here?
Do you know how much droids cost and how much maintenance costs? You know how much it costs to buy a droid as opposed to giving someone mostly tasteless food? This is a prison for profit, Bubba. They can't spend their money on stuff like automation.
Right. Did you see our electric and Wi-Fi bill to control those droids? That's way too much. Let's get these humans in who eat the non-flavored sludge.
Do you know how much motor oil would go through in a week? WD-40 with those robots?
Cassian, as you wisely mentioned, he's always looking around. He's thinking, I gotten myself out of some scrapes. How am I going to get out of this one? And one of the things we see is that these prisoners, there are so many levels, these prisoners already have like a little underground network in it, and that one of the prisoners is doing sign language to somebody on a different floor in a different hallway, and there could be almost a mini rebellion here in the cell.
Yeah, that is a great way to communicate between prisoners. And Bubba, the first thing I thought of was, I wonder, and I know this is not supported in any way, I wonder if they kind of communicate to each other, in other words, like, okay, this is the day that you guys are the least productive. In other words, they sort of so that
Oh,
they
wow.
share around the shocks. I know that was just out of nowhere. I just
No, I
thought in
think
my
that's
head,
brilliant. I would do it. Yeah.
I don't know what they're communicating, but that would be a cool thing to do. But not as cool as all you can eat from your own personal tube, Bubba. It is like hometown buffet, only tastier.
Right. At hometown buffet, I have to stand up, carry my plate over to the buffet line, pick
Yeah.
each individual item when I could just lay in bed and have it shot right into my grill.
Well, this is what I don't understand. He did that, but he also had the plate first.
Plate and the
so I was
spork, yeah.
confused. Plate and a spoon. That way you can't dig yourself out. But then we find out that their sentence have been doubled due to the port, which was laid down because of the theft. I mean, if they found out that Cassian was the one responsible for this, he would be getting what I like to call a double D.
Double D.
Yeah, a D'Onofrio drubbing. That is from Full Metal Jacket.
Right.
Also,
But they don't even have socks, though. So how are they going to be?
They might just talk. They might find some little rope or something and knock him out of his cell when the floor is fried.
Oh, man. And he gets the motivation from Melshi, doesn't he? A double M.
He does Melshi motivation. He says, forget the number. You're stuck in here until they don't want you anymore. Oh,
Dude.
man.
Dude.
I mean, poor Melshi. He's got it rough.
There's even a time jump. So we go 30 shifts later. You assume that's about a month. Cassian, he's looking rough.
Yeah, but no, he's looking exactly the same. He looked 30 days earlier. He must have shaved exactly 7 days before because the amount of scruff on his face is the same. And then they get some delicious group shower, Bubba.
Awkward. It's like, how's the water pressure at the hotel? Well, not so much water as mist. Group mist.
It's kind of like a refreshing spa, Bubba.
Right. If you go into the salt spa, drinking that salt, so good.
So good. The Himalayan salt. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So Cassian, he's doing great on the COG team. I guess that's good.
Yeah, I mean, no, I feel like finally Cassian found a purpose in his life. He's finally doing something he's good at. He's not hurting anybody. He's a productive member of society. I feel like, Bubba, Cassian's found a home. This is where he belongs. He definitely belongs in there more than the old Butterfingers dude. He is in a gots-to-go situation.
Come on.
Slowing him down. Obviously, this is like I said, you're fed, you're clothed, you've got a job with purpose, no real abuse as long as you don't step in the wrong place. Obviously, everyone's happy to be here, right, Bubba?
No, some dude jumped on the floor. He jumped on a hot floor. Prisoners, once again, they're attacking each other. Poor guy commits suicide. They're like, boy, we're going to smell Joe all week. I mean, good grief. This is miserable. I'm looking like Cassian is. I'm like, how could I get out of this mess? And through one episode, and we should say this is the first episode of a 3-episode arc that this show is famous for. One episode in, I have no idea how he's going to do it, other than when he first came in, there was something going on about deliveries and how, people.
Well, they're short-staffed.
Right. The guards had to move from one floor to another when there was a delivery in. So I know that'll play a part of it. But otherwise, Cassian,
and like I said, the number 7 will definitely be involved. Bubba, that's the recap for this episode.
Yeah, I know. A lot to cover. We loved it. Once again, we want to know what you think at WPHQ on Twitter and Instagram. YouTube, go down in the comments and tell us what you think. We're going to get to wonderful Double M's musical analysis. Now you've even got me saying it, Lord help us. But Catfish, hey, let's do something light and fun after spending some time in the prison.
All right. It is what I like to call the Mandolicisious line of the episode. That is either a funny or a badass line that either tickles our funny bone or gives us chills down our spine. I have one funny one, Bubba, and you just mentioned it. This is the humor I'm talking about. This is I love this kind of stuff. It's when after the guy fried, someone in the back says, we'll be smelling him all night. This is the kind of black humor that I love, Bubba. This was the only funny Mandolicisious line I had of the episode this week.
No, that's true. That's true. I could not come up with any funny ones that's this week. I agree.
All right, Bubba. So then that wins by common acclaim, the funny Mandolicisious line. I've got 2 badass lines of the week. The first one is from the prison. It's just 4 words, Bubba. Minimally invasive enforcement techniques. You do not want to find out what those are. Chilling.
Oh, man.
And then the other one you just mentioned, get busy or get fried. Those are the only 2 I found, Bubba.
Well, once again, because I'm Team Syril, when Dedra's like, one would think one wouldn't bring up one's failings, or however she phrased it. And Syril just stone cold. Once again, he's in the low position. She's looking up at him. She's looking down at him. He just looks up at her and says, one would be wrong. The fact that Syril, for absolutely no reason other than he just can't read a room, Syril being stone cold, that's my nominee. That's the one I'm picking for Mandalicious badass line of the episode.
Syril's righteousness knows no end. It doesn't matter how low he is in the gutter. He is still going to think he's got superior morality to yours. I'm going to go with the get busy or get fried is good, but it's too explicit, Bubba.
Okay.
It's the minimally invasive enforcement techniques that send my mind reeling down all the different ways that could be horrible. All right, so if you've got... Well,
hold on. Let me say this. The fact that you were like, well, Syril down in the gutter, he'd still have an attitude. I'm thinking about Syril starving. He's begging for food. He's like, please, please, please. A woman hands him a sandwich. He's like, you didn't cut off the crust? What the?
Only peasants eat crust.
Right. What are you doing here, lady? Come on.
Saboteur. All right, Bubba.
Yeah.
So now it's right. You're right. It is time for Quadruple M, Matt Murdick's musical analysis. Everyone is saying it. Everyone is loving it. Let's hear it.
Hey, everybody. Matt here from the Falling Behind Table 4. Falling behind because really there's not a whole lot to talk about in this particular episode thematically. Once again, we've already discussed. Really the only main theme that is coming through, that is repeated throughout all of these episodes, is in fact the main theme, which is rooted both around the show and the mission, but primarily around Cassian himself. We did have several scenes with Luthen and with Syril, but any kind of music that I covered for them before was not repeated in this episode. So I thought this time around I'd instead just focus on the technique of creating effect, specifically the effect of intensity using different kinds of methods. Some of these methods are rhythmic, some of them are harmonic. We often talk about how the chords underneath a melody can tell us the emotional context, but they can also give us an intensity as well. But first I want to start with rhythmic intensity. Rhythmic intensity is usually achieved through accents. What do I mean by accents? When some notes are produced louder than others or with a different kind of inflection, shorter or longer than others. Thinking just rhythmically about the scene where Bix is being chased right before she's captured near the end of the episode and presented to Muro, there is a faster pulse. We've talked about how subdivisions before can raise your intensity as far as the heartbeat goes. It's a faster subdivision, or more subdivisions tend to make our hearts beat a little faster. But something else that can add intensity to that is what notes are emphasized. And this is how accents come into play. For instance, I can play 2 sets of the exact same notes, but one will seem more intense than the other. And it depends on your interpretation, how your brain takes things. If your brain takes a constant pounding as being more intense than it feeling like some parts are stronger than the other, propelling you forward, then you might interpret this in 2 different ways. But if I play this exact phrase with no accents, I get this. That can be pretty intense, but it can also, because everything is the exact same strength, all of the notes are the exact same loudness, it can start to feel a little mechanical. And that tends to take the intensity out of it because we start to think of more like a machinery thing. There's not much emotion in it. But if I take those exact same notes and I play some of them harder than others, like this, first of all, that sounds more musical, right? It sounds more human. And part of the trick of being intense is to add the human quality to it. It's not even. It feels more organic. And this is the exact kind of rhythmic pattern that was being used underneath Bix's chase scene. But you'll notice that there are 8 counts in this figure, yet I placed the emphasis on the first one, the 4th one, and the 8th one. By placing the emphasis on that 4th one, it feels like I'm not dividing the entire measure into a symmetrical 2. And remember, we like our rhythms to be symmetrical. So what does that do? It makes us feel like it's jumped a little bit. That's what adds the intensity and the excitement. So the combination of the accent and where the accents are placed helps create the intensity. Another way that intensity can be created, as I said before, is in harmony. One of the big tricks that composers have been using for hundreds of years to make us feel a little more scared, a little more, that doesn't seem right, is to place a major 2 chord over the top following a 1 minor. I know that's a lot of jargon. I use jargon a lot. It's kind of my thing. But that instance occurs right as Luthen's ship is approaching the planet where he will meet up with Saw. And it creates the intensity because we're like, what? Why is he here? And in order to give us that effect, we need some kind of harmonic structure that throws us off kilter a little bit, which is exactly what a 2 major following a 1 minor does. How does it achieve that? Because the notes in the 2 major chord typically don't fit with the same scale as the 1 minor chord. And that's the reason why it works. It also, because our brains hang on to that first chord, and the second chord seems so weird, we almost psychologically recall that first chord and hear it at the same time. And believe me, I don't understand how that works, but it's what we humans do. But because that happens, we actually end up putting the 2 chords together. And what that gives us is actually a diminished chord, like this. Diminished chords are some of the most dissonant chords to us. And it's not that Bottrell is trying to scare us here, or even really make us feel worried. But because a diminished chord can resolve to any number of 4 different places, it does give a feeling of uncertainty. Why are we here? What are we going to see? And that's why that harmony works so well. Anyway, that's all I've got for this week. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
Oh, man. Matt
Bubba,
knows his stuff.
there is nothing that gets me hotter than Matt Murdick saying the words rhythmic intensity.
What if Matt Murdick said, I'm going to give you this rhythmic intensity with minimal evasive enforcement?
Woo, that it gives me contrasting feelings, Bubba.
It does. It does. Hey, let's go into the Bounty Hunter Guild where Grief Karga, not Keith Gergo, but Grief Karga needs to give a bounty hunter puck to the best bounty hunter who wins. To earn that puck, this week you're going to have to be a little speculative. You're going to have to use your creative brain. We've got 4 episodes left. We're 2/3 of the way through this story. How will season 1 of Andor end? And this question was written for the Bounty Hunter Guild battle because I think a lot of shows you can predict, oh, well, this is going to end when these 2 characters fight. This is going to end when this person gets proven innocent in the trial. This season of Andor, I really got to be honest, I'm having a hard time seeing how it'll end. And so, Catfish, do you have an idea of how you would end season 1 of what you know is going to be a 2-season show?
Gosh, well, this is the trick because we know it's going to be 2 seasons, so we assume that that Andor won't make his complete transformation to full rebel until the end of next season. However, as I said earlier, I think Luthen is gone by the end of this season. And boy, do I want to say Mon is on the run. Do I want to take both those two big chess pieces off the board in season 1? No, I'm going to say, Mon not completely off the board, but Mon on the run.
Man, I would love it. Number one, I could see it. I also, because I've been so focused on Leida in this episode, when George Lucas created these Star Wars movies back in the 70s, he was very implicit that he didn't want Darth Vader to be, the supreme leader, the head guy. He always wanted people over Darth Vader. So in the first movie, Star Wars: A New Hope, he had Peter Cushing, Grand Moff Tarkin, over Vader, somebody who could say, "Hey, Dark Vader, enough of this." Similarly, he didn't want the rebels to, Luke isn't the president. Luke is one of the team, one of the fighters. And so in Return of the Jedi, obviously you've got Princess Leia, you've got Han Solo, you've got all the heroes, but he's like, well, they've got to be the regular person. They can't be the leader. So he creates these characters like Mon Mothma. She literally, I think, has 2 lines at the most in the original movie. But in that original movie, the actress playing Mon Mothma back in 1983 has this line of, "Many Bothans died." And it's become a meme because she's so serious, and she says it like, look at the horror of what have happened. Many Bothans died to get the second Death Star battle plans. I wonder if, once again, I'm focused on Leida, if we're going to start seeing some of the horrors it's going to become of Mon Mothma. And in her storyline, I could see her daughter being taken. And once again, I don't like Leida, but it's one of these things like, Mon Mothma, we know you're doing shady stuff. You're always trying to create laws that go against the Emperor's wishes. And you're trying to do it with a smile on your face and happiness, but you're going against the Emperor's wishes enough. Well, you better shut up, or you're never gonna see your daughter again. So I could see that happening in that storyline. That's
supposed to be punishment?
It deserved punishment.
I'll never see my daughter again? Good.
Right. What if Mon Mothma turns her daughter in? Honey, your father wants to speak with you. Why is he over there with those stormtroopers? Wait, what? I'm being shackled, Mom. For Andor, though, even though we know they're 2 seasons, you can't set up this thing about his sister, which was truly the inciting incident. Yes, okay, the inciting incident was him killing those 2 guys, but really, he was in that position because he was searching for his sister. I think there does have to be a development with his sister. It can't be Bix. That isn't logical. He's been in a relationship with Bix. He's been with Bix his whole life. It can only be 2 people from what I've seen. Who are 2 female characters that could be around the age of his sister in the story now? One is Dedra, and one is Clea, however you say her name, who's Luthen's assistant, who is ordering Vel to go kill Cassian. So I think the sister has to come up in some way. She could be a character we don't know. But based on what we've seen so far, I think either one of those, Cassian's sister being Dedra and Imperial rising up through the ranks, or Cassian's sister being the one who said, kill him because we don't want it traced back to us. I think both of those are kind of gut punch moments. So that's where I'm going for that story.
I mean, I can see his sister's death will spur him, at the hands of the Empire, however that is, will get him more involved. But I'm fascinated that you are convinced that his sister is actually, that we've seen his sister already.
That is a deep shot. You're
thinking more Magpie murders. You're thinking more of a murder mystery than anything else. But I mean, I don't have anything to say that you're not right, but I'm just fascinated that you're taking that. You know what they say about assumptions, Bubba?
When you assume, you make an ass out of you and no one else. Is that what they say?
Sorry. You like you cautioned me on Magpie murders. Of course, you know how Magpie murder ends, and I don't. But neither of us know how this ends.
No, I think you're right. I think I know that when I pitch this, I'm taking the half-court shot. I am doing the low percentage shot. But to me, the sister's got to come back some way into the story.
Oh yeah, she's got to come back. But I would be surprised if we met her already. Or even if I'd be a little bit surprised, in fact, if she wasn't already dead and he finds out how she died.
So that actually, okay, that makes a lot of sense. I could see that too.
Yeah.
By saying that, I may be handing you the Bounty Hunter Guild puck.
If you if you end up being right about this, that it's somebody that we've seen already, that would be just too incredible, and it would be hurtful.
Hey,
so Bubba, we're just going to skip right over that.
Okay.
And
listeners, we want to know how. But listeners, we want to know how you think this season's going to end. I'm pretty sure there are not spoilers out there about how this season 1 ends. So please write to us and give us your prediction. So Catfish, take it away. What's next?
All right. So before we do our very last game, we have to come to our double C.
Double C.
Catfish question. Here's my catfish question of the week. Okay, we've had a Polaroid camera and in this series, and now the sneakers from the 90s that you could pump full of air. What 90s fad will we see next on Andor?
Those sneakers were made by Reebok. They were called the Pump sneaker. So they were called the Pump. So there you go.
Love it.
But a 90s fad that I think really could come back on this show, flannel. I mean, all these people, especially there on Ferrex, they should be wearing flannel. I mean, look, it's cold, it's miserable. Marva's freezing. Get her some flannel and, let her rock to some grunge. I think that's what's going to come back. What about you? What 90s?
Well, Bubba, I didn't actually have an answer for this until just now. And I don't know if this answer is even going to make sense to you because, of course, I spent a lot of time growing up in Hawaii. And so there was a lot of influences from Japan. So I don't know if this is something that kind of swept the greater nation, but there were these things called, I think they were called Tamagotchi. They were the little electronic pets that you kept alive. I feel like we're going to see one of those and it's going to control a drone or something like that. It's going to have, maybe that's what he's going to use as a grenade to get out of the prison, a Tamagotchi.
I love it. Okay. Then it's time. Warm up your vocal cords because it's...
Andor, what's that secret you're keeping? Andor, what's that secret you're keeping? Oh, I really lost it at the end there. Okay, so what question do you want answered to the next episode? Or what do you need explained to you about this episode? Bubba, you're up.
The way that Saw Gerrera turned Luthen down, there was no wiggle room, right? It was no way, I'm not doing it. And yet, I don't think you just fly Forrest Whitaker to London for, 1 day's worth of work. And so how does Saw Gerrera tie into whatever Luthen has about that job that he's trying to get done? He's like, Saw, I want you to provide air support because I'm about to do another job like the Altani job. Not that I did it, So that would be my thought of, you don't bring Forrest Whitaker in to just say no. Okay, well, we got to find somebody else. Especially when they went and saw Forrest Whitaker, there was an X-wing there. That was, I think, pretty sure the first X-wing in the show. How is Saw Gerrera going to be tied into the bigger story? That's my question. How about you?
I love it, but that is exactly what we're trying to get at with this question. What do you need to know? Now, mine is also kind of cast related. What the heck is Andy Serkis doing in this? I mean, he's a big time actor. And so I don't know how long he's going to be around. You would imagine he wouldn't agree to do this unless he was really jazzed for the Star Wars universe, unless he was going to be around longer. Like if he's going to go around with Andor more. And I would say this is the only kind of downside to casting bigger people like this. Everybody else, even Partagaz, even though we've seen him before. Yeah. Partagaz, we're like, we could lose him at any time. He's not, but when you see someone like Andy Serkis, there's sort of a natural assumption, oh, this person's going to be around for a little bit longer. So I'm just wondering, I assume that there's kind of a larger role for this in Andy Serkis, and he's not going to just be in a couple episodes. So I'm like, what the heck is he doing in this?
There is also a part of me, though, that actor who played Nemec, he's been in a bunch of British shows. He was in a bunch of British films that were shot in England and British films. Like he was in It's the End of the Effing World. He was in that Netflix show.
He was great.
He was in the movie that was about A.A. Milne, the writer of Winnie the Pooh, as Christopher Robin in that movie, and he was great in that. And so he was just in it a short time. I mentioned this was filmed during COVID. I think there is a small chance that it's like not much is filming. Well, I want to work. Well, you could do this Star Wars part for a month and being 3 episodes. I mean, maybe.
Sure, but then that's it. That's it for you in the Star Wars universe.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's tough.
You can't hope like, I'm going to do one movie and then 12 years later I'm going to play the same character, but before the movie that I shot 12 years ago. You can't really hope that Andy Serkis can't go, hey, you know what? Maybe they'll do a prequel about my character. So,
right. Well, I mean, that's what Diego Luna got. He's like, well, I signed up to do a Star Wars movie, but I'm like co-lead in the Star Wars movie. Yeah, I die at the end, but hey, I am like almost co-lead with Jyn Erso.
Sure, and he wasn't the irritating one either.
I know.
Jyn Erso, she's been part of the rebellion for 5 minutes, and she's telling everyone that they're not the ballsy ones. Come on, guys.
Have you not read Nemec's manifesto? Rebellions are built on hope.
Hey, all right, Bubba, when we get to our favorite part of the episode is where we get to read your feedback. Oh my God, this is so exciting. We got some feedback on episode 8 from Twitter. Bubba, one of our extra special Double L's loyal listeners. Bubba, go for it.
One of my favorites. It's Laura McMillian, who's at MisoCat on Twitter. She gave us feedback on episode 8. She gave us feedback on episode 7. We love Laura, and Laura, I think from this feedback, loves Andor. She says, episode 8, she said, this was a great episode. I love the juxtaposition of Mon Mothma's life of luxury with the harsh austerity of Cassian's prison life. Now, wait a minute. You say harsh austerity. Do you not remember?
So clean.
It's so clean.
It was so clean and white. Look, he didn't even have to clean up his own cell.
Sanitary conditions, minimally invasive. I mean, come on.
Nobody
Laura
forces you to drink the worm in the tequila bottle.
Now, Laura went on to say, there was quite a bit of cutting between the two to really emphasize this. She says, I'll give episode 8 9 out of 10, and she's saving the 10 out of 10 for next week. Heck yeah, Laura. All right.
Well, I don't know if she's going to be ready for this because maybe she's not aware. Maybe she's thinking next week is the end of this arc. No, next week is the second part of a 3-part
middle of this arc. She gave us a review on episode 7, where she also said, what a great episode. So she rated episode 7 8 out of 10. She said the political intrigue at both the ISB and with Mon Mothma is so good. Let me say, I completely agree. And she said the scene in episode 7 with Cassian and Marva brought tears to her eyes. She says, I had half hoped that Cassian would give Marva the manifesto, Nemec's manifesto. Boy, actually, that would have been brilliant when Marva announced her intention to join the rebellion with a small r. Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes, sure. You say it's wonderful, but another listener hit her with the Death Star. JM Del Toro at JM_Ruva said 8 out of 10. You probably were not watching the right show. That was easily a 10 out of 10. Holy cow. Death Star, Laura, you okay? Good Lord.
I mean, I've given a couple episodes 7. Don't hit me with the Death Star. Goodness gracious.
Holy
and we
cow,
had more feedback on episode 7 from this would be a great binge show, but I'm too impatient to wait until the end to do that. Let me say,
completely agree.
Camille, you are completely agree. This would be a great binge show.
What a great day. What a great weekend. Holy cow.
Now,
maybe I'll do that with Ms. Catfish because
that's a good idea.
Because we're podcasting so many shows, I haven't been able to watch it with Ms. Catfish. Maybe we'll take a weekend.
She's going to cry when old Nemec goes down.
Or
she'll cry for Syril.
Oh my God, Syril does enough crying for himself. Our boy Sean Griggan at Hey Ref says quadruple L here.
Wait, what? Quadruple L?
Long-time loving loyal listener. I don't know. Almost all the filming done used Rasal Promenade as the backdrop. Concrete benches, ramps, windbreaks. The shop Cassian was on his way to is a great dog-friendly cafe. Oh, thumbs up for that. The buildings were all CGI'd in. Sadly, not able to get on set during filming. Aww. Not a surprise. You know what? Sean, I think if you'd have done that, you would have ended up in a worse prison than Cassian did, trying to sneak onto a Disney set. Holy cow.
Hey, Sean, you are so smart. It's obvious that the little cave where Saw Gerrera was holed up is over there in England or maybe even Wales or Scotland, somewhere around there. And so Sean is our correspondent on the shooting locations in Andor.
On the scene.
Scene. Love it. Love it.
All right. Well, we got some Facebook feedback for episode 7, too. Some from Travis Drew. I just watched episode 7. Another 10 out of 10 double Ds.
Wait, double Ds?
Devious Dedra.
Oh, man. Travis, you're going to love episode 8.
Oh, my God. Every character stepped it up a notch this episode, and the whole story just ramped up a level. I don't want this show to end. Well, we still got 4 left. We got 1/3 of the season, and Dan Hickling said, I really love the direction the series is going in, the tone, the acting, the storyline. I think we should all celebrate with a sextuple P.
Okay, this is scary. Sextuple P?
Yeah. Pint portion of Perrin's potent periwinkle punch.
Oh, man. Throw a worm in there. Let's go, Dan. That's a great idea.
So well done. Oh, my God, Bubba. I am so excited, too. I am so excited. We still have 4 episodes left. We still got
another month, man.
1/3 of the season left. Holy cow. You know, Bubba, I'm so excited with our listeners, too. I mean, I love The Mandalorian.
Yep.
I love it. I loved when the Book of Boba Fett also became The Mandalorian. But this show is something different, but still Star Warsy, and I love it, and I'm so excited. So I don't care whether we have a secret movie coming in 3 years. They're giving us some good stuff, Bubba. I am loving it. I am loving that I get to hear you say these magical words every week. Join us next time on
Parsec Passion.